You're a maid, Maya. We're going to a country club. You just wouldn't fit in with the aesthetic your brother and sister bring to the table. Those were the exact words my mother said to me 3 days before Mother's Day. She didn't yell them. She didn't say them with anger. She said them with a casual, chilling matter-of-factness, as if she were commenting on the weather. For 30 years, I had been the one who drove her to her appointments, the one who cooked her Sunday dinner, and the one who held her hand when Dad died. But because I scrubbed floors for a living instead of filing briefs or performing surgeries, I wasn't just less than in her eyes. I was invisible. She thought she could pause me like a TV show and resume me when she needed help again. She was wrong. That single sentence didn't break me. It woke me up. And the silence that followed? That was louder than any scream I could have ever let out. My name is Maya, and I am the head housekeeper at one of the most prestigious boutique hotels in the city. I love my job. There is a profound satisfaction in taking something chaotic and making it orderly, in creating a sanctuary for people who are tired and stressed. It's honest, hard work that pays my bills and lets me sleep soundly at night. But to my mother, Joyce, my job was a dirty little secret she tried desperately to sweep under the rug. Growing up, the expectation in our household was excellence, defined strictly by tax brackets and job titles. My older brother, Greg, became a corporate attorney. My younger sister, Sarah, married into old money and works as a consultant for high-end art galleries. Then there was me. I wasn't academic like Greg or social like Sarah. I was practical. I was tactile. I liked fixing things and making spaces beautiful. When I started my cleaning business right out of high school, Mom told the neighbors I was taking a gap year to find myself. 10 years later, she still lowered her voice when people asked what I did for a living. The dynamic was exhausting, but I accepted it because I loved her. I compensated for my lack of status by being the emotional anchor of the family. Greg was always too busy billing hours to call her. Sarah was always jet-setting to Milan or Paris. So, I was the one who fixed Mom's leaky faucet on Tuesday nights. I was the one who meal prepped for her when her arthritis flared up. I was the devoted daughter who never asked for a dime, only for a little bit of respect. The lead up to this specific Mother's Day felt different. Mom had been hinting for weeks about a special celebration. Usually, I hosted a barbecue at my small but cozy house because it was comfortable for her. But this year, Greg had just made partner, and Sarah wanted to show off a new designer dress. They decided on the Gilded Lily, an ultra-exclusive country club that required a membership fee higher than my annual salary. I was anxious, but I was ready. I saved up to buy a nice, simple floral dress. I bought Mom a thoughtful gift, a photo album I had spent months curating, restoring old pictures of her and Dad. I was ready to swallow my pride and sit quietly while Greg talked about his cases and Sarah talked about her galas. I just wanted to be there for my mom. Then came the phone call. It was Wednesday evening. I had just finished a 10-hour shift and was soaking my feet when Mom's ringtone chimed. I answered, expecting her to ask what time I'd pick her up, as I always drove her to family events. "Hi, honey," she said, her voice unusually bright. "Listen, I've been talking with Greg and Sarah about Sunday." "Oh, good," I said, rubbing my aching arch. "I was going to ask if you wanted me to pick you up around 10? There was a pause. A long, heavy pause. "Actually, Maya, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. We've decided it's best if it's just the three of us this year. Me, Greg, and Sarah." I froze. The water in the footbath suddenly felt ice cold. I don't understand. Did I do something wrong?" No, nothing like that," she said, rushing the words. "It's just, the Gilded Lily is very high society, Maya. Greg is inviting his senior partners. Sarah is bringing some potential investors. It's going to be a networking lunch as much as a celebration." "I can be polite, Mom. I know how to use a salad fork," I said, my voice trembling. "It's not that," she sighed, the impatience creeping in. And then she delivered the line that changed everything. "You're a maid, Maya. We're going to a country club. You just wouldn't fit in with the aesthetic your brother and sister bring to the table. People ask questions, and it's just exhausting explaining your situation. We'll do something quiet, just you and me. Maybe next Tuesday? I have some laundry that needs doing anyway. My heart hammered against my ribs. It wasn't just the exclusion. It was the dismissal of my entire existence. I was good enough to wash her clothes, but not good enough to be seen eating with her in public. So, I whispered, my throat tight. I'm embarrassed you? Don't be dramatic, she snapped. I'm being practical. Greg and Sarah are paying for this, and it's expensive. It's better this way. I'll leave the laundry in the basket on the porch for Tuesday. She hung up. She didn't say, I love you. She didn't apologize. She just hung up, confident that I would be there on Tuesday, dutiful and silent, to pick up her dirty clothes. I sat there for an hour, staring at the wall. I looked at the photo album on my table. I looked at my rough, calloused hands, hands that had scrubbed her floors, combed her hair, and held her when she cried. I didn't cry. Instead, a strange sense of calm washed over me. I stood up, took the photo album, and placed it gently in the trash. Then I picked up my phone. I didn't send a nasty text. I didn't scream at Greg or Sarah. I simply blocked their numbers. Then I blocked Mom's number. I wasn't going to cause a scene. I was just going to do exactly what she asked. I was going to ensure I didn't embarrass her ever again. The first week was the hardest, but not for the reasons I expected. I wasn't sad. I was twitchy. I was so used to the constant barrage of demands. Mom needing a ride, Greg needing his dog walked because he was stuck at the office, Sarah needing me to water her plants while she was away. When my phone stayed silent, I felt a phantom vibration in my pocket. But slowly, the silence turned into peace. Mother's Day came and went. I spent the day hiking a beautiful trail by myself, eating a sandwich at the summit, and breathing in air that felt cleaner than it had in years. I didn't check social media. I didn't look for photos of their fancy brunch. I just lived. 2 weeks passed. Then 3. Because I had blocked them on my phone, I didn't see the initial panic. But I heard about it through the grapevine. My Aunt Linda, Mom's sister, who had always been the black sheep because she moved to Arizona and rode motorcycles, called me. She was the only family member I hadn't blocked. Maya, Linda said, chuckling. Your mother is losing her mind. Is she okay? I asked, instinctual worry flaring up before I squashed it. Oh, she's healthy, Linda said. But she's realizing just how much you did. Apparently, the successful children aren't very useful. Linda filled me in. On the Tuesday after Mother's Day, Mom had left her laundry on the porch. It sat there for 4 days until it rained and ruined her silk blouses. She had called Greg to take her to her cardiologist appointment, but Greg was in a deposition and sent an Uber. Mom hates Ubers. She gets car sick if she doesn't sit in the front with the window cracked, which I always knew. She ended up missing the appointment. Then came the real kicker. Mom fell in the shower. It wasn't a bad fall, just a bruise on her hip, but she was terrified. She called Sarah. Sarah was at a gallery opening and didn't pick up. She called Greg. Voicemail. Usually she would call me and I would be there in 10 minutes with ice packs and tea. But when she called me, it went straight to a disconnected signal. She thinks you changed your number by accident, Linda laughed. She doesn't realize she's been fired. She hasn't been fired, Aunt Linda, I said softly. I just resigned from a job I was never paid for. A month later, I was at work, training a new girl on how to properly fold the Egyptian cotton towels when the receptionist called me to the lobby. There's a woman here to see you, Maya. She says she's your mother. My stomach dropped. I walked into the lobby, wearing my uniform, the crisp navy tunic and trousers that Mom hated so much. She was standing by the concierge desk, looking smaller and frazzled. Her hair wasn't done up as perfectly as usual, and she looked tired. When she saw me, her eyes widened. She rushed over, ignoring the guests around us. Maya. My God, I've been worried sick. I thought you were dead. Why haven't you answered my calls? The laundry piled up, and I missed my doctors. I held up a hand.
Mom.
Stop. She blinked, stunned by my tone. Excuse me? I'm at work, I said calmly. I'm the head housekeeper here. I have a job to do. Well, obviously, she scoffed, glancing around the lobby with disdain. But you can take a break to explain why you've abandoned your mother. I didn't abandon you, I said, keeping my voice steady. I gave you exactly what you wanted. You said I didn't fit the aesthetic. You said I was an embarrassment. You wanted to be with the successful people, the ones who matter. So, I left you to them. I didn't mean it like that, she protested, her voice rising. People were starting to look. I just meant for that one lunch. You're taking this too far. Greg is too busy to drive me, and Sarah doesn't know how to cook for my diet. I need you, Maya. You need a maid. I corrected her. And a chauffeur. And a nurse. But you don't want a daughter. Not this daughter, anyway. That's not true, she stammered, tears forming in her eyes. But they were tears of frustration, not remorse. She was crying because she was inconvenienced, not because she had hurt me. Mom, I said, stepping closer. I am proud of what I do. I make things clean. I make people comfortable. I work hard. If that's not good enough for you to be seen with me in public, then I'm not good enough to be your crutch in private. You have two successful, rich children. Let them hire you a nurse. Let them hire you a cleaner. Maya, please, she whispered, grabbing my arm. I'm sorry. It was the first time I'd heard her say it in years. But it was too little and far too late. I accept your apology, I said, gently removing her hand from my arm. But the dynamic has changed. I'm not coming back to be the invisible help. I'm going to live my life. I hope Greg and Sarah can step up for you. I turned around and walked back toward the elevators. Maya, she called out, her voice cracking. Maya, don't walk away from me. I didn't look back. In the months that followed, I didn't maintain total silence forever. Eventually, I unblocked them. I speak to Mom on Christmas and her birthday. I visit occasionally for coffee, always in public, always for exactly 1 hour. When she complains that the hired help steals from her, or that Greg never visits, or that Sarah is too selfish, I just listen and nod. I don't offer to fix it. I don't rush over to clean up the mess. I realized that by quietly disappearing, I didn't lose a family. I found myself. I found the version of Maya who knows that her worth isn't determined by a title, a tax bracket, or a seat at a country club table. I found the Maya who knows that respect is the bare minimum, and if it's not on the menu, I'm not sitting at the table.